All right, we're back in the metal shop with our coat hanger, and today we're gonna mark out our holes and bring this piece to the drill press to make holes to hang it on the wall. We're gonna do just 2 holes, one on either side, and we want them to be symmetrical and perfectly laid out. So that's what we're gonna do first. I'm gonna use a pair of calipers. I set these to 3/4 of an inch because that's how far off the sides I wanna be. And I'm gonna use one end of the jaw on the outside, and I'll mark on the inside of that jaw just like that. And it doesn't matter where I do it, up and down the piece, I'm gonna mark that next. So I would do that on both sides. I'm using a carbide scribe right now instead of a pencil. It has a sharp point on it that actually scratches the metal instead of making a mark on it. It's just one option in the metal shop for how to mark things. Next, I'm gonna use a square. I'm just using a small machinist square to find that mark, line up the square side on the bottom of my stock, obviously not the jagged end, and I'm gonna use my scribe to make a mark of my material like that. Later, we're gonna deburr this and we're gonna remove the mill scale with a grinder, so all these scratch marks will disappear when I do that. Do the same thing on the other side. And now I need to mark where my hole will go vertically on this piece. We're using 4-inch wide flat bar, and I want my hole to be about in the middle of it. So I'm gonna reset my caliper to 2 inches, which would be the center of 4. And marking from the bottom, I'll make a little mark on that line. So now my hole will be positioned right there at the intersection of my line that's 3/4 of an inch from the side, 2 inches from the bottom. Doing the same thing on the other side. Measure 2 inches off the bottom, make a mark with my scribe. And then finally, one more thing that I'm gonna do, which is not totally necessary on the drill press, but good practice, is to use one of these center punches to mark that hole. So right now I just have like a flat marking on here, but what this will do is actually make a dent in that spot so my drill bit won't wander around. It'll find that dent and drill right there. So what I'm gonna do is position the point of this right there, push down until I hear it pop and release. And now I've got just a little divot right there where I want my hole to be, which will help me position it later. Do the same thing on the other side, find my mark, position, and see how I'm rocking this up to get an accurate spot, push it down, pop that to get a mark. Sweet, we're all laid out and we're gonna bring it over to the drill press. At the drill press, I've got safety glasses on. Hearing protection is optional. This machine's not super loud, but there might be loud things going on in the shop around you. I've got things tucked in, like my hoodie strings and my name tag, which is really important with the drill press because it has a spinning chuck. I've got all my regular PPE on as well. It's not hot work, and I definitely do not want gloves on while I'm doing this because they might get caught in the drill press. First thing, if there's not a bit in the drill press already, will be to mount a drill bit. We use that using the chuck and the chuck key, which lives on a magnet by the power switch. And I grab this. The drill bit slides into the 3 jaws of the chuck. What I'm looking for here is that I want to be not so deep that any of the flutes are covered up by the chuck, but it's sticking out just a little bit. If I'm sticking way out, it's not gonna have very much to hold on to. So I wanna go about halfway up. And then I can loosen and tighten the chuck by spinning this top piece. So that way it's loosening, you can see the jaws open up, or tightening going down like this. I loosely hold the drill bit so that it can get centered inside. And I hand tighten and give this a spin to check for run out. So run out means the drill bit's not perfectly up and down in the chuck. That would obviously be bad. So I just give it a spin to check it looks good. Grab my chuck key, which goes into one of the holes, and holding it in there tight, that one's a little hard to reach, but I'll show you on there. Push it in there tight and rotate righty-tighty to tighten. I don't really have a good grip on that side, so I'm gonna finish it on this side, righty-tighty to lock that in. Sweet. Now we're gonna go ahead and position our material under the drill bit. I'm using a piece of sacrificial wood underneath right now. Our drill press has this sliding table that can also do milling operations, but we want to avoid drilling into this because it is a precision instrument and it won't be if we drill into it. So I'm using a piece of wood on top. I'm going to clamp down to that. I lower the drill bit without it spinning and carefully position it on top of the divot that I created earlier with the center punch. I'm using just a tiny bit of pressure on the handle to push that down, and then using my clamp to secure it there. So now it's locked in that place. Sweet. We're clamped on. This is secure. I'm gonna do a quick wiggle test on that to make sure it's secure. And we've got a sacrificial board so that we don't go into the table. And I am ready to drill. On the front of the machine, we've got our power switch, forward, reverse. We're always going to use forward for drilling operations. Before I start drilling, I'm going to squirt just a tiny bit of this green cutting fluid onto my spot. I've got the cover closed, powering the machine onto forward, and then to press the drill bit using the handle. With a little bit of pressure all the way through until I feel it go through into the wood. Power off afterwards, open up, unclamp. You can see that I'm getting like ribbons of metal. I want to be aiming for something kind of like this stuff where it's a little bit of a ribbon. It's not so long, but it's also not just dust. If I'm pushing too hard, I might get big ribbons like this, or even worse, break the bit. And if I'm not pushing hard enough, I might just get metal dust. So this kind of thing is an indicator of a good amount of pressure on a drilling operation. And now I've got my hole right there. Next, we're ready to clean that up a little bit with a countersink using the hand drill. All right, we just took this off the drill press. We've got one of our holes, and now we're gonna use a countersink to give it a nice chamfer on the inside. That way it'll look nice and a screw can sit inside of the hole flush with the top of the material. We're gonna use an electric hand drill to do this instead of the drill press. The drill press would be totally fine to do a countersink on. We're just doing another operation. I'm gonna position this on the table with the hole over one of these holes. I could do it over one of these holes or hang it off the edge, either way. I just don't want to go into the table. Similar to the table on the drill press, it's something we don't want to mess up by putting holes in it. So I'm going to position this over one of these holes. I'm using one of these vice grip style table clamps to hold this down. I'm going to give it a wiggle test. I actually want that to be a little bit tighter, so I'm going to pop it open and use the black handle to just tighten that a little more. It's important not to over tighten these. You can bend them and mess them up. They get a lot of pressure just with a little bit of force. So I got that set up, hole over the hole. I'm gonna pick which countersink I want to use. I think that I like this 1/2-inch sized one for this job right now. It's not super important which one you use, but it'll just change how big the chamfer is on your hole. I'm gonna set this up in my drill. It has a chuck similar to the drill press, although this is called a toolless chuck. I can do it with just my hands, no keys necessary. I'm gonna put this in here, and similar to the drill press, loosen one way, tighten the other. And instead of getting the key out at this point, I just tighten it with my hand until I hear clicking. That means that we're tight enough. Cool, I've got it set up. The drill has a forward mode and a backwards mode with these buttons on the side. I want to be forward for this operation. For any drilling, we pretty much always want to be forward. And then it also has a clutch on here that will change either the amount of torque for securing fasteners, or we can put it in the drill mode. It's got the drill bit on it, which is what we want to use for drilling. So making a countersink is a form of drilling. We're going to use drill mode. Finally, we have 2 speeds, 2 for a higher speed, 1 for a lower speed. I'm going to use the higher speed for this operation. Cool. It can be kind of loud, so I'm going to put earplugs in. I'm using just these foam guys, squeeze them and put them in. And I have all of my danglies put away, my name tag, hoodie dangles, all of that tucked away so they can't get caught in the spinning drill bit. I could use gloves with this if I were worried about burrs on my tool. This isn't a stationary spinning tool, so we're not really worried about that. We've done a pretty good job deburring this piece, so I'm just gonna go no gloves. All right, the important part that we're looking for here is not going too deep. There's nothing stopping us from going too deep, so I'm gonna just start a little bit, pull it out, inspect, and go again. So trigger to go, put it in, and I'm using almost full speed. That is the start of our countersink. I think I wanna go a little bit deeper than that for my hole, so I'll just go again. I think that looks pretty solid. And I've got a countersunk hole ready to mount on the wall.